Okay, so let's try to name this compound here. This is something that you're more likely to see on maybe test one, like I did, or sometimes later on in the curriculum, depending on your program. But pause the video, see if you can attack this on your own, and come back and let's work through it together. So the first thing that I would do is recognize that this is a ring system. So this is going to be some type of cyclo. And since it does have 6 carbons in it, it's going to be a cyclohexane. The hex part of this would be the 6. It's all single bonds, so you have the hexane, and it's a cyclo in a circle, so you're going to have the cyclo part here. Now I would start naming this. It really doesn't matter because it's symmetrical, but you want to start naming on a carbon that has the most number of substituents. Again, it really doesn't matter here, so I would just name from left to right as such. So that's 6, and that would be your 1 carbon here. And so there's several ways that you can look at this substituent. And depending on what your professor wants, you can use the systematic name or you can use the common name. The common name for this compound here on each side will be Tert-butyl. Tert-butyl. This has 4 carbons. So you have a carbon here. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where you get your butyl. And tert means it's a tertiary carbon. So this carbon here is bonded to 1, 2, 3 other carbons. So an easy way to attack this, depending on your professor, is to name that a tert-butyl. So this would be 1. So you have the tert-butyl, 2 tert-butyl groups on the 1 carbon and the 4 carbon. So this would be 1, 4 tert-butyl. However, since you have 2, you have to identify that as dibutyl. So it would be 1, 4 di-tert-butyl cyclohexane. So this is the 1 carbon is 1. This is the 4th carbon is 4. So that's where you get your 1, 4. You have 2 tert-butyl groups. So you have 2 of these groups here. So di equals 2. If you had 3, that would be tri. It's a butyl group. So this is a common name. So it's 1, 4 di-tert-butyl cyclohexane. Now another way you can name this substituent here, if you had something, say if you just had to name this on a test, or if you wanted to name it this way, you could as well. You have to do it just like you would any other nomenclature. So you have the carbon here, and on these types of situations, whether it's a sec-butyl, or tert-butyl, isobutyl, you want to start with the carbon that's coming off of this chain here. So this would be essentially carbon 1. And the longest chain that you can make with carbon 1 is really a 2 chain. So this is a carbon here, carbon here. So with 2 carbons, you have an ethyl. So let's just say you're using this chain here. This would be carbon 1. This is carbon 2. So that's an ethyl. And on carbon 1, you have 2 methyls. So this would be, if you go going this way, this carbon here, you have 2 methyls, and they're all on the first carbon. So it would be 1, 1, dimethyl. So 1,1-dimethyl ethyl. And actually it should be written like this: 1,1-dimethyl without a space ethyl. So if you wanted to do it that way, coming back up here, this compound would be 1,4, and you would have to put a parenthesis in here. So 1,4, 1,1 dimethyl ethyl cyclohexane. Make sure you put your little dash in there. Actually, you don't need that if you don't need this line in there. Admittedly, I never saw this done this way for my test when I was in school. What the professor wanted to see was this here. So always ask your professor which one's acceptable for test purposes, because you don't want to, risk doing something like this and get it wrong. But for if anything, if this is an extra credit, or if your professor wants it this way, you can do it this way as well. And don't forget to put your line between the tert and the butyl. Should have made that a bit more clear. But in this little space here, you should have a line separating the tert from the butyl.